Hello, this is Jacqueline, the founder and creator of our wonderful Discover Love Academy. We've designed this program to support all of you that are listening and ready to make changes and huge shifts in your love journey. And the exciting part is that as we bring all these wonderful experts together, each expert has their own message that is going to trigger some shifts in your life and really open you up. And today we are getting a chance to speak with Barbara, that is a dynamic, absolutely phenomenal relationship expert. So I want you to make sure you have your pen and paper, your notepad ready to take notes as we explore ways to open up and make some significant changes to have the healthiest and most productive and inspiring relationship available to you because you are stepping up for it. So thank you so much for listening and being open. And Barbara, I want you to tell us a little bit about what you do and how this works for you and why you've chosen to support in the love journey for so many great singles looking for the right relationship. And then we're going to dive into some more questions. So tell us about yourself, Barbara.
Okay, well, can you hear me? Is everything
Absolutely.
connected?
Yes, you're
Okay.
great.
Well, I've been a therapist working in the field of energy and consciousness for over 30 years. And relationships, of course, clearly are one of the biggest parts of our lives. So I work with many, many, many relationships to see if we can get them to another possibility. And it's my joy. And for your people who are listening, when they're looking for a new relationship, clearly something didn't work in their old relationships, or maybe they're new in the relationship field. I don't know how young your clients can get, but wouldn't it be wonderful to start off sort of that with a fresh slate without bringing the old trauma and dramas and points of view with them? So I think this will be very exciting for your listeners and create new possibilities for living, because when your relationships work, clearly the rest of your life takes on a different turn.
You are so correct. And it is so important because whether it is a new relationship, we have members from their mid-20s to their mid-70s. So everyone is looking for love and in a relationship and wanting to strengthen that. And the powerful part that you're bringing is a chance to do it differently. I mean, as we know, we need to shake things up and change things to get different results. But it's also really powerful to know that at any point when you follow the tips that you're going to be sharing, things can be different. You can have a different outcome. So if the previous relationship didn't work, that doesn't mean the next one isn't going to work. And if you haven't dated and you're new to the dating world, it means that you can still do it right. So I love that you have a way of sharing this information. So Barbara, what would you say is the main reason relationships just don't seem to work? Let's just dive in and be honest about it. Like, what is it that you feel is that block for people?
Well, as you know, I work with every kind of person in every situation, from businesses to relationships to parents, everything. In the work that I facilitate, which is energy and consciousness, when people say, well, what do you speak about, what topics? And I basically say it's all the same. You know, even 30 years ago, I used to say I could speak, I've been keynote speaking for organizations all my life, and I would say it doesn't matter, because when you learn the tools of consciousness and you have wonderful energy tools to change points of views and beliefs that keep you limited, which is just energy, it works the same no matter what field you're in. And so with that said, you know, even when I work with a business and they're wanting me to talk about business, I say, well, you can't leave the person's life outside the door when they walk in. It doesn't happen. You might want it to, but it never will. And relationship actually is one of the biggest reasons that people's lives start to, you know, even the business part starts to go down because they're not happy, because they're dealing with situations that they don't know how to handle. So going back to your question, why they don't seem to work? Well, 30-something years ago, I used to say relationship is like taking two different species of animals together in one cage.
True.
And And actually, at this point in our evolution of consciousness, most relationships don't work. I actually say, for most people in relationships, if you took away the concept of, divorce, where you have to split up your money, or you have to split up the children, or the children are, don't want to be split up. If you took that off the board, there would hardly be any relationships that are actually still together, because they do not work. And the question is, why do they not work? Is because, as I say, everything that we do here is based on a lie. The information that we receive about everything is just turned enough that we're getting it in a way that is not going to create for us, but it actually creates against us. So, for instance, okay, we're here to talk about relationships. And the thing is, so what is relationship? Now, Jacqueline, I don't know about when you were growing up, but when I was growing up, we had all of these wonderful romantic comedy movies. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, at a younger age, you had the Cinderellas and the Snow Whites and all of those fantasies, okay? So as little children, especially the girls, you're brought up with a fantasy. So relationship is an invention or a fantasy. And and I say you buy that lie, because it is a lie. That's not what relationship is. It might be that way for maybe the first week or month or 2 months, until you actually get to know who the real person is. So what occurs here is that when we come into this reality, in order to fit in with our parents, with our friends, with our herds, our groups, whatever our groups are, we start to give us up. And so most people really never know, and I know it sounds bizarre, but we really never know who we actually are, because we started to give it up. So if you like science and you had a boyfriend, and the boyfriend, was into football, well, you might stop going to some of your science meetings, okay? And then all of a sudden what you really loved is no longer what you loved, and you sort of put it on the back shelf. And we do this through our whole life, and then somewhere along the line, the life that we could have had if we were totally choosing for us, as I say, our GPS system, that knowing that you come in with, that's gone. So we're like people lost in the forest without our GPS system. And so when you get into relationship, you have two people who really don't know who they are, because they turned off the GPS system to fit in with their herd. And then on top of it, they also bought the lie of what relationship is, which is the fantasy that we saw in the movies and in the, books that we read when we were little. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And it is amazing that we really were fed all of that, and not a surprise why people get kind of confused and a bit frustrated. So I love that you're bringing that up in a way that let's get to the nitty gritty of what's really being the wrong information, the wrong message. And I appreciate you talking about how people often give up themselves. They stop going to the things that matter to them because of their partner, their relationship, whatever dynamic was changing, and they lost a lot of who they are and what fully represents them.
Absolutely. And you see this in every walk of life. Even in business, you see it. Everything that we do here, we are looking for results. We are taught to look for results. And the interesting thing about results is a result can only come from your past, which is like something that you sort of have to stop and look at for a moment. Okay?
Yeah, talk about that a little bit more.
You couldn't come up with, let's see, a relationship. Well, what is that? Well, I remember seeing Snow White and this, and I remember that movie. I remember my cousin, and I remember my parents' relationship. Everything is, you're looking at it through the context of something that you've seen, you've read, you've heard, okay? And that is, well, I'm going to say the words because that's, is part of the insane asylum that we live in.
Right.
Because it's not true. It's all set up, and then we buy it. It's like the emperor's new clothes, okay? The emperor was not wearing any clothes. That was the lie. And our lie, and you can go through every genre of life, from business to money to sex to everything, there is something that cannot work because it was never meant to work, because it was a lie from the beginning. It was an invention. So the first thing when we're talking about relationships is, okay, so what would relationship be if we could not look for the result, because the result, remember, is the past, and the past was the lie. So what if we can just wipe that away? And when you're working with energy, you can. That's the beauty of it. So you could basically take all the relationships you've had, do a little energy work, and all the points of view and all of the beliefs about, well, relationship doesn't work, and men are this, and women are this, and all of those beliefs that we have, they can literally be put in the garbage. Okay, they're deleted out of your files.
Right.
Okay, that's your think tank, your being.
Yeah.
And now,
remove. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So now we have a clean slate. We have a brand new computer. So what is it that we want to put in that will actually work for us and not against us? So for all of the people who are, your concept and your business is so wonderful because, listen, relationships are a great part of living. I mean, how wonderful it is to have, as I say, which is my favorite thing, is to have a best friend who's right there with you at all times. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And so then how do you get that best friend? Well, you give up all the results you're looking for because they were never yours. You read about them, you saw them, you heard them from your mother, brother, sister, and best friend, but they were never yours, first of all. And from your mother, father, brother, sister, best friend, they were the lies that they bought about relationships, watching all the romantic comedies and the books and the cartoon movies and all of that. So what I talk about is consciousness. And consciousness is living in total allowance with no judgment, no point of view other than the nanoseconds that you're in the moment. It's a little broad, and we can't go into the whole thing now. But what I'm basically saying is, what if we, can create a whole new concept, a whole new point of view of what relationship is, not what we decided it was, because as we've just talked about, that wasn't real.
Mm-hmm.
But what could relationship be when you don't have any expectations, any projections, any rejections, and all the points of view that you received and you took on from every relationship you had, which clearly didn't work because you're not in that relationship, right?
Exactly.
So what most people do is they take everything that went wrong and they hold that. They don't let go of it. There might be anger in it, Talk about, meeting people who are divorced. They get into new relationships, and I see this all the time. And it's like you're taking everything that didn't work in that relationship, and now you start a new relationship right at that point. It's like saying you're moving into a new house and you're bringing your garbage cans filled with all the garbage that was in your old house.
Yes.
That's, and taking all your old furniture that was torn and stained and the dogs, peed on it and whatever else. Why do that? Why not start off totally fresh?
Well,
and the whole idea is,
yeah.
And so the whole idea is, the main thing is you want to let go of all decisions, conclusions, and judgments about what relationship is. So the question is, what would a relationship be for whoever our listeners are? Like, how many people actually think, well, what would actually work for me? what kind of relationship would work for me? And you have to do that not from all the books and not from the friends, but for you, because what's going to work for you might not necessarily work for anyone else.
Right. That is so true.
So the whole idea of conscious relationship is both partners allowing each other to show up just as they are, without having to fix them as soon as they walk in the door.
That's actually one of the biggest challenges. So as you're talking about this, Barbara, you're absolutely resonating with our members. I mean, I actually just recently bought a computer because my computer was so full, running so slow, had so much content for 6.5 years of having this wonderful computer, and then having a new computer. I loved your earlier story of how you're pulling in, like consciously choosing. And I've noticed with the new one, like, what do I actually want to download? Because before I just hit download all the time. And what are we doing in our day-to-day? We're just letting all these outside influences fill up our resources and make decisions for us. So you're saying to really go in with no judgment, go in with a fresh, open perspective. That is powerful.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And so the first thing is to know what makes you joyful. What's play in your life? You know, one of the other lies of this reality is that we're taught to do. Everything is to do. You have your to-do list. If you're working for anyone, they want you to do. And you know what do is, right?
Yes.
So in reality, life, the purpose of life, actually, I know it's going to sound bizarre living here, but the purpose of life on earth is actually to have fun, to be in the energy of joy, because the energy of joy matches health in the body. It matches money flowing into your life. It matches creativity. And unless you are resonating with those energies, your life is not working.
That's actually so true. Thank you for saying that.
And here on this planet, we are programmed to be worker bees. Mm-hmm. Everything is about doing. And that's one of the greatest limitations that we live with, which is why literally the planet only has maybe 18 or less years the way it's going. Because actually, human beings are the cancer cells of the planet. But that's a whole other story.
Right,
and
exactly.
That's because we're not choosing consciousness. So what would it take to choose consciousness in a relationship? And the first step is for each person to start to choose for them and not against them.
Love it.
We're brought in as children, and from the time we get here, we are made wrong because the parents never understand the children. They want them to be a specific way so they could look like good parents. And when children come in, they have an innate knowing. And the parents, not that they're doing it on purpose, we just don't have, I created a program over 20 years ago called Conscious Parenting for a New Paradigm. I mean, it's like, how many people are interested? Most people don't even know what the word consciousness actually implies. The point is, what would it take to have the whole concept of relationship fall under the heading of consciousness, which is being in total allowance with no point of view, which means if you're in a relationship, whoever that person is, when they come in, unlike your parents who wanted to change you, okay, and if you're trying to change somebody, what does that person think about themselves?
They don't feel good about themselves when someone's already thinking of what's wrong with them, what's not working for the other. You've immediately deleted them. Absolutely.
Exactly. And that's how we come in. You cannot be an infinite, amazing creator, okay? A person who has a life of ease and joy and glory and fun when you think you're wrong and you're pathetic and you're less And that's
Correct.
how most people are. That's how we think of ourselves, which again is why the planet's not working. So a conscious relationship is being in total allowance of however the person shows up. Now that's huge, because the first thing that women do, okay, and 90-something% of my clients have always been women, okay, so I remember all the stories of a woman coming in, and after a while, when we move enough energy that they actually could start to create, you know, relationships coming in, or men coming in, or women coming in, whatever their choice is, the first thing that they start talking about is how they're going to change them. And I would always start laughing, because everyone was sort of in the same place. And I'd start asking questions, and they would basically say, well, I love them so much and they love me so much. So, you know, so I'm sure they're going to want to, you know, be this way instead of this way. And it's like, hello, okay, how would you feel about someone telling you that almost everything you do has to be changed in order for you to be with them? So
That's
point
exactly
is,
right. Yes.
What if you, okay, so when these women would start saying this to me, and this is going back even 30-something, 40 years ago, my first thing would be, I'd put up my hand and I'd go, stop right here. Okay, if you believe that you have to change this person or anything about this person in order for your relationship to work, leave right now. Because zebras usually do not change their stripes.
Correct.
People usually do not change. And I can tell you that because I've been in the business of allowing people to choose to change or not, and most of them do not.
Mm-hmm.
So again, when you're in a relationship or you're starting a relationship, you want to be able to say to yourself, if this person stays exactly the way they are right now, would this work for me? And if it doesn't, walk away immediately, because otherwise you're setting yourself up for trauma, drama, and a whole other story.
Well, and that's actually the most honest question for both people. It's not fair to the other person to already have a job to change, and you're already telling them they're inadequate, yet I like you enough to tell you you need to change. But in the same breath, you're saying that you really don't like yourself enough because you're already trying to find their faults, which is a reflection. So having that energy, it's not fair to put an assignment on somebody when you got to love them for who they are right now, because it is true about change and ownership. And it's powerful how you're expressing this and really giving people permission to actually stop and catch themselves and realize, oh my goodness, I'm already telling this person, I really think you're pretty great, but once you change these things, who wants that? And why would you want to be in that relationship for either one of you? So that is very powerful.
Yes. So one of the first tools of relationship or of life is that for you, okay, the person listening to this,
yes,
it's never to choose against you. And how do you do that? By making a demand of yourself that you'll never give you up again, because you've been giving yourself up your whole life.
Never choose against you. I mean, that is so important. People forget that that's exactly what they're doing, and they're already setting themselves up to be failure in a relationship or a very big struggling relationship. So don't give yourself up. I love that. Thank you, Barbara. That is so profound. That's a strong statement.
Yes. And so how do you do that? Okay. And so it's like you want to be on guard, okay, in your life, just like when you were a child and you had a new friend and they liked, I don't know, they liked dancing, but you liked sports. And because you wanted to be with them, what did you do? You gave you up.
Yeah.
Exactly. You gave you up, and then all of a sudden you're doing what they're doing, but you're not that happy. But you're doing it because you want to be in your herd. Well, that's how we keep giving us up. And when you go through year after year of doing that, guess what? There's no more of you left. And that's why people in their lives live with such trauma and drama, because if you can't have you, and when I say have you, we're talking about energy. You vibrate at a specific energy. When you start to give you up, that energy starts to plummet. And literally, the only difference between living and dying is when the energy starts to plummet. As soon as the energy of the body goes down, you start to get a cold, a flu, disease, cancer, and then death slide. That's it.
It's true.
So
and I think a lot of people slide into that and have no idea that they've given permission to slip away, when that isn't what this is about. It's about really owning living, but also preparing for a successful relationship and really choosing the tools, as you so eloquently are sharing. What does it really take to show up for the relationship, but let the other person, because as soon as you start conforming to somebody else, then you lose also why that person fell in love with you in the first place. So both people are being denied.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's tool number one. And of course, in the work that I do, we do it energetically, which actually makes it occur so quickly. But for right now, let's start here. It's a wonderful way to start. Okay, so whatever it takes in your life, be really aware, am I giving myself up here? So when your partner or your friend or whoever it is asks you to do something or asks you to be something that you're not choosing to be, the question is, am I giving myself up here? Yes, no. Okay? It's like, and if you see that you are, then no. There's no way I'm giving myself up. Goodbye. Okay? So the other, I'm just going to give you some tools, because without tools,
Right. I love tools. And this is what's great for all of our incredible members with Discover Love Academy listening, because we want to listen to this, and then we want you to, implement these ideas. So, hearing your tools is powerful. So what's your next tool?
Right. And again, I can't give the total energetic ones, because the people wouldn't be understanding it. But these are very simple that anyone could do. Okay, so another thing is, which one should I give first? Okay, well, so everything is energy. Okay, whether it's your money, your job, your body, everything is energy. And so your relationship has a specific energy. So this is a tool that you could do it all through the day. I do it as soon as I get up. When I open my eyes, I'm in my bed for about 20 minutes doing some energy clearing, okay? And what we're clearing is, I'm calling it energy, but it's points of view that you've taken on in this lifetime, which really were never true, but you're living based on them, which is why life doesn't work here, okay? So what you want to say in the morning is, everything my relationship was with. And then there's a blank. You want to start with you. Everything my relationship was with me yesterday. And then, this is going to sound a little strange, but go with it. You'll see that it'll work. I now destroy and uncreate. Now, what that means basically is, in physics, we know that you cannot have creation without destruction. Okay, so when a fire goes through an area, you can look at it saying, well, it's done a lot of damage, it's done this and this, but if you look at it as nature intended it to be, it sounds like a commercial, right, for butter or something. Anyway, in order to change the soil, in order to change the energy of the land, the fire was actually required. Now that's consciousness. That's being able to look at everything with no point of view, okay, other than in that nanosecond. And when I say no point of view, if you ask most people, well, if a fire came through these woods, is that good or bad? Everyone is basically going to tell you it's bad. And that's a judgment. And that's a judgment based on 100 million different stories.
Right.
But what if we take away judgment, which is what consciousness is, What if we take away all past, as if there's no past, there's just this moment, and this fire is coming through because nature, the earth, okay, which is total consciousness, requires the land to change. And so the fire comes through, it changes the land, and now there's a different possibility for growth, for animals, for whatever.
Very true.
When you take this aspect of consciousness and you put it through your whole entire life changes, which is why anyone who's ever heard me speak about this body of work that I facilitate called Access Consciousness, it changes your whole world. It changes everything because you're coming out of unconsciousness. You're coming out of judgment. You're coming out of the lie that we all live with, and you're choosing for you by choosing consciousness. So getting back to everything, my relationship with me, everything my relationship was with me yesterday, I now destroy and uncreate. The destruction is basically you're taking away what's not working. And uncreate is simply you uncreated the life you could have had by choosing against you. Now you want to choose the life that would actually work for you, that matches who you really are energetically. Do you understand that? Is
absolutely perfect. Yes. And I love the languaging, because our amazing listeners, our members, are taking notes on this. So you're giving them very specific tools. Thank you.
Well, that's what I like to do. You know, I'm a Jewish mother.
Yes.
So I always make sure that my people have the tools to change everything. And these are little tiny baby tools, but trust me, they will work better than probably any tool that most people have if you use them. Correct. They sound so easy that most people just, oh, well, what is she saying? You know, blah, blah, blah. But trust me, these are energetic tools. If you use them, they will work. So every morning, everything my relationship was with me yesterday, I destroy and uncreate. And then we're going to add Pod Pak. Pak is point of creation. It's where you first took on the energy of the limitation that you're living. So clearly you want to get rid of it, right?
Very much so.
Okay, so that's point of creation, where that belief was first taken on. And Pod, P-O-D, is point of destruction. Ever since you took that energy or that belief on, you've been destroying the possibility of who you could really be. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Very detailed. And it really does. It makes that impact. You're so accurate.
Yes. Yes. And you might have to listen to it a few times because the language is just a little bit different. Okay. Right. Everything that I say is just a little different than what you're going to hear anyone else say. So you want to listen to it a couple of times. But anyway, and that's what it means. It basically is saying everything that I took on in this lifetime that is a limitation to me, that stops me from being everything I can be and have everything that would work for me, I'm getting rid of. I'm letting it go. And that's it. That's all that it needs. When you do that, it creates a new space. It's like going back to the garbage can. You took out the garbage. Now there's a new space. You could fill it up with, I don't know, potpourri or fruit or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So, I think it's what's important. Refill it with better.
Exactly. So now you have a new space. And in this new space, a whole new possibility can start to occur. Now, of course, you'd have to know a little bit more to make it bigger and faster and whatever, but you have to start somewhere. So again, everything my relationship was with me yesterday, I destroy and uncreate, Pod Pak. And then you want to go to the same thing with everything in your life. Everything my relationship was with and whoever your partner is. Or everything my relationship was with relationships. Okay, the whole concept of relationship. Everything my relationship was yesterday with money. You can take this and you could go through everything in your world. And if you have parents and you have children, I would do that for them too. What it does, it's sort of like the Etch-a-Sketch, okay? When I was growing
yes,
up,
good visual.
yes, when I was growing up, there was like a piece of cardboard that had a piece of plastic, and you had a wooden pencil, and you would draw on it, and then when you lifted the page up, it would disappear. You see what I'm saying?
Right, yes, I do.
Okay, well, this is what this is. When you start using it, all the points of view and beliefs, which is energy that you have about your mother, father, brother, husband, ex-husband, you, your money, your business, it all starts to leave, because those points of view and those beliefs you have are all limiting, because they were all created within the lie, which is the insane asylum. What if there's a whole new possibility to live from total consciousness? And that's going to look and feel and be totally different. So if you start saying this every day, you're going to start to see little things start to change.
Mm-hmm. And this is what people are needing, is that breaking the pattern and looking at things. As I often say, people need to do a 15-degree shift in perspective. And by hearing you say this, it's new knowledge for their mind. It is something, thankfully, all of these will be on demand, and everyone can hear these recordings again during the year program. But what's so important is knowing that we have a conscious choice to actually learn new tools and then utilize these tools for different outcomes. And knowing that all relationships, yes, we're looking for true love and these wonderful partnerships, but just as you said earlier in the talk about how when work is, struggling on a relationship level, the home relationship can be affected in all directions. So it's a multiple connecting. Well, we're almost out of time, Barbara. What would be some of those things that you'd like to kind of tie up this conversation in a bow as ending thoughts to lead our wonderful members off into this next chapter of really consciously being aware about their relationships? Even before they're in a relationship, they need to look at how they're entering into a relationship for a longer, more rewarding future without judgment.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, the idea is starting with you. And what would it take for you to never judge you again, to never make you wrong again? How different would your life be? And that's where it starts. When you can do that for you, now you can start doing it and being it for someone else. And can you imagine, in my first book, I wrote that, I'm not going to give you the 3 sentences, but the bottom line was that on this planet, we don't know who anyone is. And the only place we get unconditional love, which is no judgment, is from our dog or cat or lizard. And I've asked the question to countless people since I've been doing this for over 30 years, okay? Is there anyone in your life who doesn't judge you? And I've only heard one woman once said her great-great-grandmother. Other than that, everyone says their dog or their cat or whatever, although I've heard a lot about cats being judgmental. Right. I don't know about cats. But my point is, when you start to live in consciousness with no judgment, no point of view other than the nanosecond that you're living in, your whole life starts to change. And then you can move over and change the relationships, and then you could change the money. And when you work with energy tools, and I'm a therapist, so I could tell you that, whatever, it's when you're working cognitively, you're going very slow, which is why you never really get rid of it. It always somehow comes back. But when you work with energy, it's gone. It's not going to come back unless you choose to bring it back.
Yeah,
so
that's a whole nother story.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. So anyway, yes, if they start to practice with these little baby tools, you'll start to see a little change, and then go for the energy, go for the consciousness, and life will be totally different. And maybe the planet will actually be able to exist when we're gone.
Well, and the important part is just that we have the power to make a ripple impact. Every day we are making ripples. The question is, are we choosing positive? Are we choosing to own ourselves? Are we choosing to make the best decisions for the highest personal and spiritual development of our journey? And too many people are just kind of living moment by moment, and they're focused more on do I like this person? Am I being rejected by this person? Not what am I attracting? What am I choosing in this conscious relationship? And you are doing
Right.
such a great job explaining that, Barbara. And I'm really, really excited for all of the future presentations you'll be sharing with our incredible members who have chosen to step up and choose more, choose their greatness, and really want the best relationship. So I'm excited to hear from everybody how this wonderful presentation about relationship tools for conscious connections is really going to be changing so many lives. So thank you. And I look forward to our
welcome.
future talks.
And I want to thank you for your contribution of having these speakers and doing everything you do to, it's being you and changing the world. When you choose to be all you could be and choose consciousness, then you become that invitation for everyone else. And that's what you're doing. So thank you for that contribution.
Thank you. And thank you for noticing it. It has been absolutely an honor to see the experts that stepped up, because I know they've been called to work with our members. So each one is bringing the nuggets of information that our members have been craving. So I know they've all been personally invited by me, and they're purpose-driven, and the members have requested them without even realizing it. And that's what's so powerful. So thank you again, and we look forward to all the new information we'll hear the next time. But until then, everybody take time to release the judgment, choose what works best for you and in your greater good, and allow other people to see you being amazing.